about
a man
who had
3 servants. For the sake of argument,
Fred,
Ted,
and Julian Potterton Brown.
Now Ted was smarter than Fred.
But Fred was bigger than Ted,
Ted had a head to earn him his bread.
which cannot be said for Fred.
But Fred often said,
I don't have Ted's head.
I manage with muscles instead.
Now Julian Potterton Brown,
Was the odd one out.
but this didn't deter him. After all,
I'm frightfully well bred, he said.
I'm greasier than Ted, he said.
I'm lazier than Fred, he said.
And I don't run with either of them, the creeps.
One day, their employer summoned them to his office.
Now listen, you 3,
Fred, Ted, and Julian, whatever your name is.
Potterton Brown.
Granted.
Before I go away on my journey,
I wish to give you each some money to look after.
form a line, form a line.
5 talents for you,
2 talents for you.
and 1 talent for you.
So he waved goodbye,
Took his toothbrush,
took his hat,
took his coat,
took his leave.
and left.
Now, Fred had $2,500.
Ted had $1,000.
Julian had $500.
But what were they going to do with it?
Fred had a flair for gardening and fancied growing some vegetables.
Ted had a flair for marketing and fancied his chances in business.
Julian had flairs and fancied himself.
Fred rolled up his sleeves,
Grabbed his money,
blew the whole lot on a spade,
a garden shed,
a plot of
a
land,
bag of bulbs,
a garden hose.
and a pair of gloves.
Ted surveyed the market very carefully,
He bided his time,
picked his moment,
got his wallet,
and laid all his money on AT&T.
telephone systems,
Julian was sensible,
was wise.
was cautious.
He considered the problems,
The pitfalls,
the dangers that lay
the
ahead.
risk of losing everything.
And so, Julian used his intelligence.
He thought,
He planned.
he schemed,
He did
nothing.
nothing.
But he was very careful with his money,
He wrapped it up in a silk handkerchief,
on a velvet cushion,
in a little box,
and hid it under the floorboards.
and then,
A few years later,
knock knock.
who's there?
Who do you think?
The master!
Master!
Quick, quick, form a line, form a line!
Thank you. Check this out.
And the master called each man to account for the money he had entrusted to him.
Who's first?
Well, it's not as much as I hoped, Master. Cab just got frostbitten last year.
Never mind that. Well done, good and faithful servant.
You have doubled the money I gave you.
Enter into the joy of your Lord.
Next.
Yeah, well, AT&T sold a few, bought a few, crashed a few, but you can't win them all, so here you are.
Well done, good and faithful servant.
You too have doubled the money I gave you.
Enter into the joy of your Lord.
Next.
Master.
My Lord.
Master.
I don't need to be a hard man, etc., etc.
Blah, blah, blah. Reaping where you did not sow.
Blah, blah, blah. Gathering where you did not winnow.
Plowing where you did not plow, and so on.
And so forth.
I was afraid and hid the money.
I remain your obedient servant, Julian.
You did nothing.
You're all
You're
words.
all tar.
All that I gave you has not grown 1 inch.
Take away the talent and give it to the man who has 10.
And take this wicked servant and cast him into utter darkness.
Don't be deceived.
Put everything God has given you to good use
For one day, you'll have to give an account of your life.
to him.